The Eagles might not be done making moves, according to multiple outlets, but the suggested trade or signing prospects leaves a lot to be desired. Plus, Philadelphia's First Lady Kylie Kelce was harassed pretty badly the other night in New Jersey. You get the details on that. And the Birds are back at OTA practices tomorrow. What should we expect? I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. We might be exactly 100 days from the Eagles' season opener against the Green Bay Packers. We're less than 2 months away from the Eagles' first preseason game against the New England Patriots. But yesterday it was officially confirmed the Eagles will have one joint practice against the Patriots shortly before that preseason matchup earlier in August. And in the meantime, the Eagles are back on their own practice field tomorrow for another one of their OTA practices this week. Although this time reporters actually get to be on the sidelines to keep an eye out for a number of key storylines, including the absence of players like JamesBradberry, Kylie, Ringo, and Devontae Smith. Plus, how does Kellen Moore's offensive scheme continue to kind of mold and look different from what we saw this past season? And will any other players, such as Kenny Pickett, continue to make headlines? We'll cover all of that as we always do here on tomorrow's show, so hit that red subscribe button and be ready for the latest from OTAs. Plus, I'll be announcing the winner of the Jalen Carter Nike t-shirt giveaway we announced earlier this week on tomorrow's show, so you have a couple more hours, I guess the rest of the day, to go ahead and get your entry submitted. Full details on how to do that are down below in the description box. Get your entry in right now because one of you is going to win that thing tomorrow. Now, in case you missed this, there's a viral video going around involving Jason and Kylie Kelce in New Jersey that's grabbing some serious headlines.
Middle of the street. You are. You'll never be allowed in this town. You'll never be allowed in this town again. Don't be out on your breath. You're embarrassing yourself.
And although it's a short clip, allegedly what happened was the Kelces were in Margate City, New Jersey. Sorry if I butchered that. On a little vacation, on a little date night, and allegedly a drunk woman wanted a picture. Kylie and Jason said no, and the altercation eventually broke out. Now, Kylie clearly wasn't happy with what was said because she got right in the woman's face, which New Height podcast watchers should not be surprised by at all.
Well, let me just say, I am almost 6 feet tall, and I'm not thin. I will hold my ground. That's mine.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I said what I said.
Getting defensive.
Yes.
This is a much bigger story than you would see during the regular season, but because it's the off season and it's the Kelces, there isn't much to talk about. Twitter ran wild with this sort of thing, but at least the internet quickly came to the defense of Kylie and I guess Jason as well, with one person tweeting, "Whoa, do not mess with Kylie Kelce. I know the video is going to hit the airways soon. Kylie and Jason do not owe you anything. Let them live their lives. They were very accommodating to people on the beach over the weekend, but if they're on a date night, do not bother them." Plus, even the mayor of Margate City, Michael Collins, released an official apology to the power couple, stating, quote, "I know as well as anyone the importance of a date night with your wife, and would like you to offer a redo date night with dinner on me." Well done, Mr. Mayor. You scored some extra brownie points right there. Still, though, it's a good lesson for us fans who don't necessarily meet our favorite celebrities on any given basis. We all want pictures. We all want to go ahead and say hi, but sometimes they are on a date night or they're busy or they're eating dinner, and it's best just to go ahead and leave them alone. Although I'm curious, have you guys met any Eagle players in person walking around Philadelphia or elsewhere? Let me know who you met down below in the comment section and what the interaction was like. I think the first real Eagle player I met just kind of out and about was Lane Johnson whenever I worked for First Things First in New York shortly after the Eagles' 2017 Super Bowl, and Lane was massive in person, but also really nice and gave me this picture. Now, because the Eagles have a couple of open roster spots with the potential of one more move, if I'm right about the whole Bradberry getting cut next week, plus the 8th most cap space in the NFL, $24 million, naturally, a lot of websites are speculating about the Eagles potentially signing or trading someone before minicamp. First of which is free agent wide receiver Hunter Renfrow, who I've mentioned a ton on this channel as potential wide receiver 3 target, yet he remains unsigned, which even SI.com admitted is very confusing when they wrote recently, quote, "It's a little bit of a mystery as to why the Las Vegas Raiders stopped using Renfrow after his breakout 2021 season that included 103 catches, 1,000 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns. The easy answer is that he wasn't a scheme fit for Josh McDaniels before McDaniels was fired in the middle of the last season, but it does say something that Renfrow remains unsigned. Maybe coaches haven't liked what they've seen on tape. If injuries occurred during the offseason or training camp, perhaps a team goes back to Renfrow's tape of 21 and takes a chance on the 28-year-old wide receiver." And the key words there are 28, 1,000-yard receiving a couple of years ago, and unsigned. Like, why is he unsigned? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. There's clearly something that is going on that we don't know, but I wouldn't hate the idea of Renfrow coming onto the Eagles wide receiver depth chart. Like, you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but the competition behind him for wide receiver 3 is, it's okay, right? Is Anaya Smith good? We don't know. He's been injured. Paris Campbell could win the job. Renfrow could be signed for cheap. I'd bring him on just to see what he could do during training camp. Now, Renfrow aside, another wide receiver's name that's been floated around, this time again by SA.com, is Ty Titans' former first-round draft pick and, yes, A.J. Brown's replacement, Treylon Burks. SI.com wrote, quote, Howie Roseman might want to go back to the Titans to add another struggling pass catcher to the fold. Treylon Burks has not lived up to the hype as a former first-round pick in Music City. It probably wouldn't take much for the Eagles to bring Burks in. There's a chance he wouldn't be much help, but considering how little Zaccheaus and Watkins offered last season, there's little downside to the move. The problem is, this is just speculation, as we said at the very beginning. There's no real actual reporting behind this, and the fact that Burks has been horrific since being a first-round draft pick a couple of seasons ago. He has just 1 touchdown in his first 2 years, 0 this past year. And I always like the idea of new place, new me, like you go somewhere else and then you revitalize your career. But this is a term that's way overused in the NFL. Like, just because you move teams doesn't make you a better overall football player if you're not that good. It rarely goes ahead and works out in the favor of the player who was struggling somewhere else. And so, sure, Burks for a 6th or a 7th round draft pick is a very low risk, very high reward sort of situation. But is he like a necessary must-have sort of player? I kind of reserve my judgment on that. Now, another name I heard recently was former Eagles running back Miles Sanders, with a lot of Eagle fans wanting to reunite the former Penn State backfield and bring Sanders back to Philadelphia. But of course, we remember Sanders a couple of years ago just leaving the Birds to sign a much larger deal with the Panthers, then injuring his shoulder in Week 5 and having Chuba Hubbard outperform him, which basically left the running back on the sideline for most of last year. There is a chance Sanders could be a post-June 1st cut in order to save Carolina some cash, but even then, would you really want the Eagles to go ahead and bring him back? Like, I'm really intrigued by Will Shipley. I was very confused by the draft pick, at least when it happened during the NFL draft, but since then, I think he has a lot of potential to even take Gainwell's RB2 spot. I mean, I guess if we get halfway through training camp and Kenny G and Shipley aren't looking very special, and it's kind of like, wow, we need another running back on this roster, you could give Carolina a call, but right now, I just don't think it's absolutely necessary, other than the fact you want to recreate the whole Penn State backfield, which I guess is kind of fun. Now, take all this with a grain of salt. It's the offseason, and so there's lots of speculation that may or may not come true. We've done a lot of speculation on the show the past couple of days because we haven't had actual OTA video footage to break down from OTA practices. But just because the Eagles have open roster spots doesn't mean they have to fill them. They could sit tight and get through after training camp and then go, hey, now we need to sign Hunter Renfrow, or hey, let's just go ahead and keep some of the people who are undrafted from the draft this past season. It doesn't mean you got to spend all of your free cap space immediately, so I don't think they're going to make any of these moves, but I'm curious which of the 3 you guys would rather have. Also, tonight, on Wednesday Link Live, myself and Josh Davis, subscribe, notification bell, that way your phone gets a handy-dandy little notification whenever we go live. Come on in, sit down, and we'll break down all the Eagles offseason news together in our normal live format. It's going to be a bunch of fun. I'm Thomas Mott on a Wednesday. This has been The Thomas Mott Show.